Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Rutgers 255th Anniversary Commencement. We gather to celebrate the academic achievements of the class of 2021 from Rutgers University, New Brunswick and Rutgers Biomedical and Health Sciences. Let's hear from members of the class of 2021.
My name is Kayla Hernandez and I'm from New Brunswick, New Jersey.
My name is Rahul Singh and I'm from South Brunswick, New Jersey.
This is Bria Jackson from Willingboro, New Jersey.
I'm Malcolm Pickering from Milford, New Jersey.
My name is Vanessa Clavel and I'm from Green, New Jersey.
Mabuhay from the Philippines.
My name is Hamali and I'm currently in Isla, New Jersey.
My name is Justina Kears. I'm from South Amboy, New Jersey.
Clarence Penn, Brooklyn, New York.
I'm Kelly McGrath, Port Jervis, New York.
My name is Maya. I'm from Homedale, New Jersey.
Hi, my name is Kaisha Walton and I'm from South Jersey.
Hi guys, this is Jaya Banerjee Chatterjee, proudly representing Plainsboro Township from New Jersey.
I'm Villain from Rutgers, New Brunswick.
My name is Melissa and I'm from the Rutgers home state of New Jersey.
I'm Sakib Rasool and I am standing in New Brunswick, the Canadian province.
My name is Neha Mishra and I'm from North Brunswick, New Jersey.
Karachi, Pakistan.
My name is Jessica Kiffel and I'm originally from San Antonio, Texas. But for the past 2 years, I've called New Brunswick and Rutgers my home.
Shout out to the School of Environmental and Biological Sciences.
Rutgers, Mason Gross, Jazz.
Shout out to the Rutgers Business School.
School of Arts and Sciences, the School of Management and Labor Relations, as well as Douglas Residential College.
Shout out to the Graduate School of Education.
Shout out to Rutgers University School of Nursing, Blackwood campus.
The Ernest Meyer School of Pharmacy.
I'm representing the School of Arts and Sciences.
Go Rutgers Computer Science!
School of Social Work.
Woo woo! Special shout out to our amazing professors at the Department of Health Informatics, School of Health Professions.
Shout out to the School of Environmental and Biological Sciences.
I'd like to give a huge shout out to Rutgers University School of Arts and Sciences.
My greatest achievement was completing student teaching in a virtual setting.
I'd have to say my proudest moment was getting through all of the homework and the assignments, being a 50-year-old person going back to get his master's.
My proudest achievement is how I've excelled in my courses and got enough credits to graduate.
My proudest achievement is being a first-generation college graduate.
Being a part of a case competition as well as joining Rutgers Association of Marketing and Strategy.
Thank you, Rutgers, for preparing me to win the Marshall Scholarship to do a master's degree at Oxford.
With a newborn during a pandemic, I am most proud to have graduated summa cum laude within 2 years.
I want to give a huge shout out to my mom, my sister, my grandma, my boyfriend, and all my friends who helped me through this journey through my master's program.
I want to thank my friends and family so much for guiding and supporting me these past 2 years. Now let's go get a big girl job.
Thank you to my family for supporting me.
I would like to thank my parents.
I need to give a big shout out to my husband.
I would like to thank my parents for their unconditional support during my college career, and shout out to my grandparents in Mumbai, India.
Thank you to everyone who supported me on this journey.
My mom, my dad, my husband Jared, and Babcha, and Puka.
I would like to thank my mother, my father, and my younger sister Eva.
I want to give a huge shout out to God first and foremost, my amazing parents, my wonderful husband.
Thank you to Mom and Daddy and all my family.
Above all, a big thank you to my little girl Cataleya.
Huge shout out to my parents, my brother, my best friends, and my mentors.
I want to thank my wonderful, wonderful family.
I'm really thankful for having y'all. You know who you are. I just want to give a huge shout out to my sister Natalie, my boyfriend Jack, and my beautiful mom who's currently recovering from a traumatic brain injury. She's so proud of me and I am so proud of her. Love you all.
I'd like to thank my friends and my family for supporting me every step of the way.
I want to give a big shout out to my family and friends, but most importantly, my mom and dad.
To all my friends around the globe, thank you for keeping me sane, especially in this tumultuous time.
My biggest supporters throughout my Rutgers journey have been my husband, Marcus, and my son, Bowie. Danke, Schatz. Ich hab euch lieb.
Congratulations, class of 2021. I'm Josh Harriman, Vice President for Alumni Engagement, Annual Giving, and Advancement Communications. Welcome to the Rutgers alumni family. It's a family that embraced you the first day you started at Rutgers and will for the rest of your life. Because you are Scarlet Forever. At this moment, you are joining a network of more than 500,000 Rutgers alumni worldwide is part of the Rutgers University Alumni Association, or the RUAA. Membership is free for life and carries all kinds of benefits: comprehensive career services, world-class continuing education, events that are fun and inspiring, and a wide range of leadership opportunities. Visit ouralumni.com for more information. Please know that you'll always have a home at Rutgers. And no matter where you go in the world, Rutgers will be there too. Because the Rutgers community is global, and you will always be a part of it. Congratulations, class of 2021.
And now, a short film about student stories of their road to graduation.
The world has changed.
There is a new normal. It is scary.
It was scary until we realized that we were built for this world.
We are ready for new ways to do things.
New ways to take on the world.
When I first came to school at Rutgers University, I thought it would be challenging, but I did well my first 3.5 years. When I lived on campus, I spent time with other students and roommates, going to the gym, doing homework together, and having study groups. That was my everyday life. Then it all changed. I had to log into Zoom calls for classes. I had to learn how to communicate with my professors through a computer screen. It was very difficult, but my professors worked with me. My main support, my great-grandfather, passed away last November at the age of 86. He paid my way through college. He was my last living grandparent. But I know that he and the rest of my grandparents are watching over me. They, along with my school support team, inspired and motivated me to reach the finish line to become the first in my family to graduate from college.
I came to the United States from Ukraine in 2005. Although I was fearful and anxious, as an immigrant I had to overcome many obstacles. I had to learn a new language, make new friends, and build a new life in a new world. My college journey was stressful at first, but I was optimistic. There were times when I fell behind and worried about making it. I motivated myself to work harder and smarter. Then, I began to excel and ended up on the dean's list multiple times. One of the greatest aspects of Rutgers is its diversity. I was able to meet people from all walks of life, people who came from different countries, different cultures, and with different ideologies. I am graduating today, and I will forever be a Scarlet Knight. I am thankful to Rutgers for changing my life forever. But most importantly, I am grateful to my parents who brought me to this country and provided me with the tools and opportunities to be where I am now. A Rutgers University graduate, I am so proud of this achievement. Rutgers Rah!
Making the decision to return to school at 52 was not easy. Stressed but determined, I was doing well, even after having 2 knee surgeries during my first year. I never imagined that my greatest obstacle would occur at the end of last semester. During my internship, I got a sudden headache like a lightning bolt and was rushed to the emergency room. I had a potentially fatal brain bleed and spent 10 days in intensive care. I was determined that if I survived, I would accomplish the dream I had come so close to achieving, getting my master's degree. I am happy to say that I have fought the courageous fight to reach my goal. With the support of my devoted husband, daughter, family, friends, and a few very special classmates, I am beyond proud to be graduating today.
At first, Rutgers was scary, but I quickly learned becoming a true Rutgers student wasn't about fitting in, it was about finding your people. And finding my people was quick for me. I'm a digital filmmaking major, and the program had a small class size. Working with my classmates on assignments and personal projects birthed the strongest relationships I've ever had. For the first 3 years at Rutgers, my life was a roller coaster of long productions on campus, late-night editing, and endless brainstorm sessions over cups of coffee with friends at the dining hall. Then the pandemic came. In a matter of days, all of my friends were ripped apart from each other and we were sequestered in our homes for an indefinite amount of time. How are we supposed to create our senior thesis films when we couldn't even be in the same room? We discovered new methods of working and new ways to tell stories. The dreams we had for ourselves were broken, but the bonds we created carried us through the changes.
My road to graduation consisted of nothing less than unforgettable, amazing memories, opportunities, hard work, and dedication. I majored in journalism and media and minored in dance. I had the best of both worlds. I was able to work towards my dream of becoming a news reporter and writer while continuing my love for dance. I will always cherish my memories of dancing across the studio floor. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit and classes went remote, it was a huge adjustment, especially for my dance classes. As time went on, I became used to looking down at my computer screen and learning new dance phrases with my peers. Also, I joined a sorority where I met and made lifelong friends. I became more involved on campus and supported important philanthropic causes. I will always hold on to the memories I've made at Rutgers as I move on to the next chapter of my life.
Rutgers embraced us as a beloved community and prepared us to lead this new world.
This world is our world. We are built for this.
Ladies and gentlemen, the university commencement ceremony begins. Please welcome the chair of the university's Board of Governors, Mr. Mark A. Engelson.
Parents, family, friends, distinguished faculty and staff, esteemed elected officials, and most important of all, our splendid students. I'm Mark Engelson, chair of the Rutgers Board of Governors. 49 years ago, I was one of you. I'm honored to welcome you to this year's Rutgers University Commencement. We are here today to celebrate you, class of 2021. You epitomize the excellence and opportunity that constitute this great university. We recently renamed the Newark Law School building in memory of former Rutgers law professor Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Justice Ginsburg, on occasion, was asked, "When will there be enough women on the Supreme Court?" She famously and frequently replied, "When there are 9. Justice Ginsburg thought no small thoughts. As you go on your way, I implore you to think no small thoughts, constantly to strive for excellence, to take Justice Ginsburg's response with you and apply it in all your endeavors. This terrible pandemic deprived you of an in-person senior year and a live commencement, but your loss has a silver lining. You now have a proven ability to adapt to unforeseen circumstances that will serve you well as you continue to navigate life's rich pageant. I applaud you for rising to this challenge, and I wish for you that you never again should encounter dislocation of this magnitude. Even in the midst of these challenges, you are privileged to have been with us nonetheless for the first year of the tenure of President Jonathan Holloway. He came to us laden with academic honors after more than 2 decades at Yale, including service as Dean of Yale College, and directly from Northwestern University, where he served as provost. In coming to Rutgers, and he could have gone anywhere, he raised us up. His accomplishments in leading us through the pandemic and the associated economic dislocation speak for themselves. That we have reason to expect that we'll be nearly back to normal in September 2021 is nothing short of miraculous. President Holloway's first act last summer was to call for $10 million in funding from our alumni for the Scarlet Promise grants, additional aid to our most financially challenged students. He made a significant contribution from his personal funds to kick things off and saw to it that our alumni responded wonderfully as well. Then in the fall, President Holloway secured from the Mellon Foundation a $15 million grant to establish and fund our Institute for the Study of Global Racial Justice, just one among many recent examples of Rutgers being first. Then in the winter, he published to rave reviews his latest book, The Cause of Freedom. Through these actions and others, President Holloway is raising Rutgers' profile, and he has resolved to lift us even higher. A nationally recognized figure, he was called upon throughout the academic year to appear in the media to address the issues of the day. Already a member of several learned societies, he's been tapped to sit on important public service boards and commissions as well. Each of these endeavors brings further prestige to our hallowed university. But when asked what's most important to him, President Holloway states without reservation, our students. He participated in numerous courses as a guest lecturer. He created the President's Student Advisory Council and met regularly with its members. He met with students across the university, including with student identity groups, and participated in student town halls on topics including mental health and climate. He faithfully supported our student athletes by attending their competitions when most others could not. He presided over the decision that the university should divest of all its fossil fuel holdings, and he's just getting started. Members of the class of 2021, this is a celebration of you. Along with your remarkable individual achievements, please carry with you, as a mark of pride, your participation in the transformative success of Rutgers. You are being graduated from one of the world's great research universities. Rutgers has prepared you for whatever the future may bring. 50 years from now, your love for alma mater will be unmatched among your institutional relationships, as is mine today. Go forth from here, make your mark on the world, do well. Make us proud. And while you're doing well, please also do good. I could ask no more. You should do no less. Dr. Jonathan Scott Holloway, 21st President of Rutgers University. Over to you.
Please welcome the 21st President of Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, Dr. Jonathan Holloway.
Thank you, Chairman Engelson. Members of the class of 2021, welcome to this moment. We all understand that this is not the way that you imagine your graduation, much less this entire academic year. The last 15 months have been defined by a litany of challenges, disappointments, frustrations, and tragedy. But through your hard work, your focus, and your determination, you have found yourself here, at the cusp of becoming. This may sound like an incomplete thought. The cusp of becoming what? This is a question for you to answer, and it is my hope that during your time at Rutgers, you will develop the tools and sense of self that will propel you toward the first of what will likely be many different answers to that question in the years ahead. Before you start the work of taking those first steps toward an answer, please join me in acknowledging everyone who helped you along the way. If you're watching this with your parents, take a moment to thank them for what they gifted you. whether it be shelter, food, resources, confidence, a shoulder to cry on, or the occasional piece of tough love. They have given of themselves so that you may thrive. Similarly, your aunts, uncles, siblings, grandparents, and in some cases your children, have been part of the support network that helped you manage to this cusp. Thank them. Do so with unabashed enthusiasm. Let your accomplishment be theirs as well. Once you have thanked your family, I hope that you will reflect upon that Rutgers-specific network that aided you on this journey. There are the roommates and classmates, of course, just as there have been faculty and academic advisors. But there also have been the healthcare providers, the counselors, the coaches, the librarians, the custodians, the dining hall workers, the groundskeepers, the shuttle drivers, the repair people, the first responders, the administrative assistants, and so many others. Why do I mention them? Because without their hard work, your ability to get to this cusp would have been so much more difficult, if not impossible. Find a way to thank them as well. Why do I belabor this point? Well, for one, it's simply polite. But I am more deeply motivated to emphasize the importance of acknowledging others' assistance because it helps move us toward a deeper appreciation of our obligations. Obligations? On a day of celebration? Yes, obligations. Toward the end of this ceremony, I will confer your degrees upon you. When I do so, you will hear me reference the rights and responsibilities that come along with your diploma. These are not idle words. As Rutgers alumni, you will have the privileges that accompany being a member of a very special community, but you will also have the responsibilities of upholding the best aspects of that community, while also committing yourself to the work of making this great university even better. Poet Gwendolyn Brooks captured this sensibility far better than I when she wrote, "We are each other's harvest. We are each other's business. We are each other's magnitude and bond." Brooks' message here is as simple as it is profound. We need each other, and we are only as good as the hard work that we invest in our endeavors. But there is more here. Brooks is also reminding us that the vibrancy of our community is the accumulation, the amplification of so many individual successes. Each of you, working hard and possessing the audacity to imagine something more, has made this a better place. In the closing pages of his new book, The Sum of Our Dreams, A Concise History of America, Rutgers historian Louis Major speaks about the roles that hard work and bold imagination play in shaping a community. In this case, the community in question is this lovely and maddening country. Listen to Major. Whatever its struggles, the United States has been a nation that has identified itself by its dreams. Dreams inspired by abstractions like democracy and rights. Dreams animated by seeking the balance between individualism and community. Dreams stirred by those making a new home in America and pursuing a better life. And dreams also driven by the desire to break free of all the dreams. Sometimes achieved and often broken, dreams have defined the history of the United States. I think it's safe to say that dreams, the audacity to imagine a better tomorrow, brought you to this university, and now you are about to leave this phase of your Rutgers career. To return to something I put in front of you at the start of these comments, you are on the cusp of becoming. As you continue on your journey to become a teacher, a consultant, a financier, a poet, a scientist, a musician, a pharmacist, an artist, a nurse, a dancer, a professor, a dietitian, a philanthropist, an attorney, a doctor, an agitator, or a TikTok influencer. Remember, the people who brought you to this cusp reflect upon the obligations that accompany this great accomplishment and dare to dream of ways to make your home, your neighborhood, your university, your state, your nation, and your world a better place. You have the skills and intellect to do this, and don't you dare let anyone tell you otherwise. We are each other's harvest. Dream of making it more plentiful. We are each other's business. Dream of ways to increase our sense of communal accountability. We are each other's magnitude and bond. Dream of ways to support your fellow friend and stranger, and through the strength born of that connection, make the kind of positive difference that this world so desperately needs. To the class of 2021, you have made it to this moment by surviving a series of trials that could not have been imagined. Now take full measure of those challenges and celebrate the fact that you have overcome them through your strength, creative vision, and resilience. These attributes will serve you well as you become the embodiment of your dreams. Congratulations, graduates.
President Holloway will present the honorary degree candidates and confer their degrees.
One of the most prestigious honors any university can bestow is an honorary degree, a degree which is conferred honoris causa, or for the sake of honor. Through this public action, Rutgers acknowledges individuals whose exceptional achievements support the ideals of the university and serve as an example for our students, alumni, and society. I'm pleased to introduce the distinguished individuals who will receive honorary degrees this year. A detailed accounting of their accomplishments can be found in your commencement program. Our first candidate is Ms. Lori Garrett, who will receive an honorary Doctor of Science degree. World-renowned expert on infectious diseases, Lori Garrett has devoted her life's work to investigating epidemics, educating the citizenry, and advocating for stronger public health infrastructures worldwide. We will now play a short tribute video to honor Ms. Garrett.
Respected public health expert and scientific journalist, you have dedicated your life's work to investigating and writing about the causes and trajectories of infectious diseases around the world. Traveling the world to investigate viruses and epidemics that can cripple communities, you foresaw that contagious outbreaks were not a thing of the past, despite mainstream opinion that the threat had been conquered with the advent of antibiotics and vaccines. In 2005, you predicted a catastrophic epidemic that would result in substantial loss of human life and economic woes, warning that borders would be closed, trade paused, and quarantines instituted around the world. Your second book, Betrayal of Trust: The Collapse of Global Public Health, turned the spotlight on crumbling public health infrastructures and sounded the alarm, making the meticulously researched case that increased globalization and deteriorating public health care have left communities susceptible to and vastly ill-prepared to combat re-emerging diseases, antibiotic-resistant microbes, and bioterrorism. Named the prophet of this pandemic by the New York Times, and the only individual to receive the Pulitzer Prize, the Peabody Award, and the George Polk Award, you are one of the world's most authoritative writers on global infectious diseases, sharing your findings through knowledge-based journalism to educate the citizenry and ultimately influence policy.
Lori Garrett, now therefore by virtue of the authority vested in me by the boards of governors and trustees of Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, I am pleased to confer upon you, honoris causa, the degree of Doctor of Science, with all rights, responsibilities, privileges, and immunities pertaining to it, and in token of which I present you with this diploma and direct that you be vested in the hood emblematic of the degree. Our next candidate is Dr. Rush Holt, who will receive an honorary Doctor of Laws degree. Dr. Holt earned his PhD in physics, holds a patent for harnessing energy from sunlight, and served as the Chief Executive Officer of the American Association for the Advancement of Science. But he also served as the United States Representative for the 12th District of New Jersey for 16 years, passionately upholding the values of public service and frequently relying on his scientific knowledge, working tirelessly for the betterment of society. We will now play a short tribute video to honor Dr. Holt.
Renowned scientist and politician, you served the citizens of New Jersey and the nation admirably as a United States Representative for the 12th Congressional District of New Jersey. Your humble act of asking to be identified as representative rather than congressman reflects your commitment to public service and is emblematic of your integrity, moral compass, and humanity. Tirelessly representing your constituents, you served with passion, lending your scientific knowledge, intellectual curiosity, and genuine concern to a broad range of issues such as civil liberties, election security, education, and access to health care. A staunch advocate for using government for good, you championed increased funding for science and technology research and the need to improve science education, fought for decreased dependence on fossil fuels, led efforts to fund infrastructure improvements, protected open space, and stood with those who are struggling, pained, or disenfranchised. You have been a stalwart proponent for increased access to higher education, pursuing funding efforts, and writing the College Cost Reduction Act. A luminary of public service and a mentor at heart, you have been a great friend to Rutgers, contributing your time and valuable insight to classes, seminars, and forums related to science and government, and donating your congressional papers to enlighten and inspire others.
Rush Holt, now, therefore, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the boards of governors and trustees of Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, I'm pleased to confer upon you, honoris causa, the degree of Doctor of Laws, with all rights, responsibilities, privileges, and immunities pertaining to it, and in token of which I present you with this diploma and direct that you be vested in the hood emblematic of the degree. Next, Ms. Gwendolyn Willow Wilson, known as G. Willow Wilson, will receive an Honorary Doctor of Letters degree. Perhaps best known as the co-creator of Marvel Comics' Ms. Marvel series, featuring Kamala Khan, a Muslim American teenager from Jersey City. A New Jersey native herself, Ms. Wilson has also authored 2 acclaimed novels, a memoir, an award-winning graphic novel, and has written for numerous other comics franchises, including DC Comics' Wonder Woman. We will now play a short tribute video to honor Ms. Wilson.
Proud daughter of New Jersey, novelist, essayist, and comics writer, you were sought out by Marvel Comics to co-create and write the first Muslim superhero, Kamala Khan. A Pakistani-American teenager, Kamala Khan provides a positive depiction of a young Muslim American female living in Jersey City, New Jersey. The many accolades and honors you have received for your prose underscore your tremendous ability to entwine history and imagination. Your writing breaks down barriers for many Muslim Americans struggling to find identity in popular culture as you write from your own experience. Raised in an atheist household, you studied religion and chose to convert to Islam during your journey to Cairo. Your memoir, The Butterfly Mosque, a young American woman's journey to love in Islam, illuminates your struggles to submerge yourself in a new religion and culture at a time when tensions were equally felt in the West and the Middle East. In their honesty and realism, your stories have championed diversity through awareness and empathy. Your characters are relatable, and your prose immerses the reader in a culture that may be unfamiliar, only to emerge better informed, more understanding, and appreciative of not just the differences, but also the similarities amongst us.
Gwendolyn Willow Wilson, now, therefore, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the boards of governors and trustees of Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, I am pleased to confer upon you, honoris causa, the degree of Doctor of Letters, with all rights, responsibilities, privileges, and immunities pertaining to it, and in token of which I present you with this diploma and direct that you be vested in the hood emblematic of the degree. And now I am pleased to introduce the presenter of the 2021 University Commencement Address. Ms. Natasha Trethewey will be addressing the class of 2021 momentarily, but first I'd like to present her with an honorary doctorate of letters. Two-time United States Poet Laureate, Poet Laureate for the state of Mississippi, best-selling author, and Pulitzer Prize winner, Natasha Trethewey has focused her life's work on examining the intersections and contentions between public and personal history, national memorialization and forgetting, and the fraught legacy of race in America, seamlessly blending individual and collective experience from the Civil War to civil rights. Ms. Trethewey's work illuminates the history of American trauma and resilience, inspiring her readers to reflect and learn while engaging in intricate stories that captivate. We will now play a short tribute video to honor Ms. Trethewey.
Lauded poet, two-time United States Poet Laureate, and Pulitzer Prize-winning author, you have been a resonating voice for those who have been disenfranchised and neglected in a social system fraught with divisiveness and discrimination. Seamlessly blending life experience, history, and racial identity into beautiful verse, you have found inspiration in the stories of those long forgotten, etching into your readers' minds the beauty and intricacy of those who came before you, and weaving historical research with tales of suffering, hope, and purpose to give those who were voiceless a face. Writing through the lens of being born and raised in Mississippi, your thoughtful and powerful words accentuate the dissonance between our nation's higher ideals and the injustices endured daily, challenging your readers to look inward, as you have so articulately epitomized. Your numerous accolades include the 2016 Academy of American Poets Fellowship, and the Heinz Award for Arts and Humanities, and the induction into preeminent academies. Your voice is one of heightened awareness of oneself and the world in which we live, challenging the status quo and educating your readers about the disparities felt by those outside the majority, with eloquent lyricism that exposes the frailty and complexity of human nature.
Natasha Trethewey, now, therefore, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the boards of governors and trustees of Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, I am pleased to confer upon you, honoris causa, the degree of Doctor of Letters, with all rights, responsibilities, privileges, and immunities pertaining to it, and in token of which I present you with this diploma and direct that you be vested in the hood emblematic of the degree. Natasha Trethewey, Rutgers is humbled and grateful to have you to address the class of 2021 today. Thank you for joining us on this momentous occasion for our graduates. To say you have a way with words is indeed an understatement of great proportions, and I will now turn the mic over to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Natasha Trethewey.
Greetings, President Holloway, and thank you for that lovely introduction. Greetings also to the members of the Rutgers University community, and especially the graduating class of 2021. I'm honored to speak to you on this momentous occasion. In times of uncertainty and upheaval, our rituals, our ceremonies, whether they be celebrations like this one or solemn occasions to mark darker times, serve to remind us of our history while also inspiring in us hope for the possibilities of the future. And because of all we've been through this last year, both collectively and individually, in this particular moment, we are called to hold those two things side by side, the solemn and the celebratory. When I think of these two things together, I'm reminded of a lovely poem by Liesl Mueller called When I Am Asked. It's a poem about how she became a poet in the aftermath of great personal loss. It begins, when I am asked how I began writing poems, I talk about the indifference of nature. The poem goes on to convey her profound grief over the death of her mother, who, like my own mother, died in the month of June. She describes a glorious warm day in which all the flowers are blooming, the sun is shining, and nothing in the landscape of the garden where she sits seems to acknowledge the depths of her loss, how isolated she feels in her individual mourning. It ends with this powerful declaration: I placed my grief in the mouth of language, the only thing that would grieve with me. She's speaking here about the language of poetry in particular, but also of our shared human language in general, what is written or spoken or otherwise conveyed between us, the way a poem is an individual voice speaking to us across the distances, asking that we listen not only with our intellect, but also our hearts. This past year, I've been thinking a lot about commemoration, how we remember, what we forget, and the indifference of nature to all of it. When I was invited to address you, to celebrate with you, we were already deep into living through the stunning manifestation of that indifference in the form of a pandemic that has left so many of us isolated, a virus that is still taking so many of our brothers and sisters here, at home, and around the world, infecting people of all races, young and old, rich and poor, sick or in good health. And when I sat down to write this address, everything outside my window was green and blossoming, and the death toll was approaching 600,000 in the U.S. and spiking in places like Brazil and India. Nature is indeed indifferent, I thought, and indiscriminate. But the societal disparities that affect who is dying are not by nature. They are man-made. In tandem, throughout this past year, I've watched the streets of our cities and towns across the nation fill with Americans of all walks of life, all races and faiths standing and marching together in protest against police brutality and ongoing injustice, as if we were in the midst of the tumultuous times of my birth, the 1960s when my parents met and fell in love. And because I was born on Confederate Memorial Day in Mississippi, a holiday created to commemorate the lost cause of the Confederacy, the attempt to destroy the nation in order to maintain slavery, white supremacy, and the second-class citizenship of Black Americans, I watched with horror and deep sadness as the Confederate battle flag was carried through the halls of our nation's capital during a violent insurrection. The same flag that flew all around the state in commemoration as my mother made her way to the segregated maternity ward at the hospital. The flag raised in fervent opposition to advancements in the civil rights movement, the Civil Rights and Voting Rights Acts of 1964 and 65, and incorporated into the upper inner corner of the state flag of Mississippi. There, its message was a kind of synecdoche, a part standing in for the whole, that Mississippi would not be inclusive of all her citizens except in the ongoing narrative of white dominion over Black subjects to whom it waved, "Know your place." The inclusion of the battle flag served as a visual reminder of white Mississippians' allegiance to its white supremacist, slave-holding heritage, indicative of the new ways the state would find to maintain the second-class status of Black Americans, among them unjust laws, unequal treatment, and myriad barriers to the ballot box. Writing in 1964, Supreme Court Justice Hugo Black asserted that no right is more precious in a free country than that of having a voice in the election of those who make the laws under which, as good citizens, we must live. Other rights, even the most basic, are illusory if the right to vote is undermined. The following year, the Voting Rights Act was signed into law. It was 1965, the year my parents married, my Black mother and my white father, though interracial marriage was still illegal in at least 17 states in the nation. In Mississippi, not only was it illegal for them to marry, it was also illegal to travel to another state to do so. For love, for the right to love whomever they chose, my parents committed an act of civil disobedience. Breaking an unjust law, they crossed the Ohio River into Cincinnati, as runaway slaves had done, for a measure of freedom in a state where they could marry legally. 2 years later, in 1967, the Supreme Court, in a gesture toward bestowing equal rights, struck down the laws against interracial marriage, ruling them unconstitutional. Because of that, with all the other advancements we've made since then as a nation, I did not expect to find us here, still unequal and more deeply divided in the midst of turmoil, collective resistance, peaceful protest, and civil disobedience not seen in this country since the Civil Rights Movement. We are again at such an inflection point, this time at the convergence of two difficult moments in our shared history. A century ago, an event largely forgotten in our national memory, the pandemic of 1918 left 500,000 Americans dead. Worldwide, the virus killed, by a conservative estimate, 25 million. And just over a half century ago, the nation was erupting in protests against unjust, unequal treatment of Black Americans. That there are many people who don't know how we got here, who are surprised by the protesters' demands for justice, is evidence that we have long been a nation of forgetting, willed blindness, and amnesia. Amnesia around the events of our shared past is indeed part of why we find ourselves in this moment of upheaval, having a national reckoning amidst our national mourning. America wants to forget the past and the past in the present, poet Adrienne Rich wrote. At the intersection of these two national traumas, we are living the results of our national forgetting. The lessons we learned a century ago about stopping the spread of a deadly virus, about prevention and preparedness, all but forgotten or willfully ignored in initial responses to the epidemic. The lessons we should have learned about the effects of ongoing injustice and oppression, the powder keg of frustration and despair, ignored until the spark that, again, ignites a nation. The willed blindness and amnesia that kept so many people from seeing what was happening repeatedly to some citizens of our nation until a 9-minute video made the world see. The meaning of a symbol, unspoken language which is not indifferent, downplayed to a comfortable notion of nostalgia and fuzzy ideas about heritage without taking into account the full measure of what that heritage, then and now, is actually about. With you, the graduating class of 2021, who have been through so much, we have an opportunity to change the path from one of convenient forgetting and willed amnesia, which is a kind of indifference, to one of reckoning and remembering in order to contend with our past and shape our future. Among the most important things you've gathered at Rutgers, an institution committed to the pursuit of knowledge, groundbreaking research, and the commitment to service, is an awareness of the importance of evidence, of knowledge, both learned and empathic, the humane intelligence constitutive to meaningful, engaged service, and the necessity of eschewing the kind of studied indifference that renders the lives of others insignificant or invisible, the goals of all disciplines united in these pursuits. I think of the sentiment of Proverbs chapter 18, verse 15. It reminds us of the importance of the intersection of heart and mind. The heart of the person of understanding acquires wisdom, and the ear of the wise seeks knowledge. This makes sense to me as a poet, and that it points to a crucial aspect of our lives, the pursuit of knowledge rooted in the listening and the metaphorical representation of the seat of emotion, the muscle of empathy, the heart. At the intersection of heart and mind, we find poetry. The notion here of poetry connects to what I think of as the poetic quality of what you have spent these last few years deeply engaged in, the elegant equations you studied in mathematics, the sustained inquiry of your work in the sciences, your discoveries, the reckoning with the past and the impact on the present and our future in your history courses, in your language and literature classes, the figurative images and rhythms of syntax that can make the mind leap to a new apprehension of things, the clarity and power of your best prose, the world-changing potential of your ideas, designs, and life-saving and affirming care, the work of your hands, your gestures in art and theater courses, in medicine, the precision of the body in motion in your dance classes, your athletic pursuits, all of it a kind of poetry when you've performed at your best, as your best selves. It is a manifestation of our most humane intelligence, the intersection of heart and mind, the repudiation of indifference. Nature is indifferent. We don't have to be. In her essay, Resisting Amnesia, Adrienne Rich wrote that we can choose to become consciously historical. That is, a person who tries for memory and connectedness against amnesia and nostalgia. Referring to a speech by historian Lerone Bennett in which he spoke of the totalizing force of history, she quotes, "There is nothing you can do in history that will free you of the historical responsibility of being born at a certain time, in a certain place, with a certain skin color." Historical responsibility, she continues, has, after all, to do with action, where we place the weight of our existence on the line, cast our lot with others, move from an individual consciousness to a collective one. But we all need to begin with the individual consciousness. How did we come to be where we are and not elsewhere? Many of you began your studies here with a particular idea in mind of what your path would be. Some of you have stayed on it. Others have switched. Many of you have yet to even find it. Sometimes something happens, some national trauma or personal adversity that changes the course of our lives, as now, a pandemic. When I started college, I didn't know where I was headed, where my studies were taking me. And even when I finished, I hadn't yet identified the path I was on. But I can see now that what I gathered along the way has led me here. At the end of my freshman year, my mother was killed, and I was plunged into despair, isolated in my grief. To contend with it, I wrote my first poem, a simple act of articulation that was my earliest attempt to take the raw materials of my life and shape them into something that could be meaningful not only for myself, but for everyone else who had felt the depths of grief, who had ever loved someone deeply and lost them, as surely all of us will. I don't know the exact moment I realized my calling, that I would be a poet, but I do recall the lightning rod of Liesel Mueller's words. I placed my grief in the mouth of language, the only thing that would grieve with me. It echoed my realization that my greatest loss could be transformed in the language of poetry, and that language could give me solace as well as provide a sense of purpose, connecting me to the lives of others and giving meaning to the sudden tragic turn my life had taken. Unlike nature, language, what connects us to others in the act of communication, recording our past, articulating ideas about our present and future, is not indifferent. And I would argue, in the mindful, poetic quality of your work, whatever your calling, your vocation may be, you can chart a path that resists indifference and amnesia, one of empathy and connection in the service of justice and the common good. It requires a willingness to contend with the truth, with facts, with evidence, even if it is difficult and undermines the comfortable stories we've told ourselves about how we've gotten here. We can't have a history if we only want to recount our best moments, and we certainly can't have a hopeful future without remembering and reckoning with our difficult past. In this moment of shared national and international mourning, bombarded as we are every day with images of hate and suffering, devastation and destruction, we are reminded of what links us to every other human being on this planet, our mortality, our need for justice, shelter, companionship, sustenance, sanctuary, air to breathe. We must honor the dead by honoring the living, which means resisting indifference and amnesia, and recognizing that all lives have equal value, deserving of a world, a nation, that treats them so, a nation that lives up to the as yet unrealized tenets of our creed: justice for all, due process, equal protection under the law. As challenging as much of what I have said sounds, the uncertain future ahead of us, in this moment we have so much cause for celebration. In spite of this most difficult year, you are here. Along with the knowledge you've acquired through your academic studies, you've triumphed over great odds and gathered a great deal of existential knowledge along the way. As Louis Pasteur wrote, "Chance favors the prepared mind." Take solace in that you have done much to prepare your mind for whatever comes. Be guided and buoyed by that, whatever your path, wherever this journey you've begun at Rutgers takes you. Be historically conscious, mindful of how you got to be here and not somewhere else. Often, when I'm worn down by the daily news, I remember that not only can language grieve with us, but that it can celebrate with us too. It's then that I turn to a poem by Lucille Clifton that I think speaks to all of us surviving in our collective moment. It's called, "Won't You Celebrate With Me?" Won't you celebrate with me what I have shaped into a kind of life? I had no model. Born in Babylon, both non-white and woman, what did I see to be except myself? I made it up here on this bridge between starshine and clay, my one hand holding tight my other hand. Come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed. Clifton's poem of celebration speaks to our collective experience, each of our unique selves, the whole human community dealing with the difficulties of our world. It is a triumph of the enduring human spirit to mark such an occasion. I know that in my life I have faced tragedy, life-threatening events such as the one we now face, and the possibility of something that could have destroyed me. We all have. Class of 2021, won't you celebrate with me? Congratulations to you all.
That was truly inspiring. Graduates, now is the time to celebrate the culmination of all of your hard work over the past few years, the awarding of your degrees. To begin that process, I would like to recognize one student from the class of 2021 to represent all of those earning a degree. Please welcome Mr. Nicholas LaBelle, the outgoing president of the Rutgers University Student Assembly. Nicholas is graduating with a major in business analytics and information technology from Rutgers Business School.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Nicholas LaBelle.
Thank you, President Holloway. Friends, family, fellow Scarlet Knights, class of 2021, and members of our beloved community. In a year that brought many uncertainties and hardships, many of us were placed in circumstances previously unimaginable. Many of us experienced loss. We lost coworkers, friends, and family. With that, I'd ask that we observe a moment of silence to honor those who could not be here with us now. Thank you. In spite of those hardships, we come together today to celebrate our resilience and our graduation from this proud institution, Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey. Through our time together, scores of individuals have been there to support us, professors and TAs in the classroom, staff who enriched our experiences, parents and those we call family, many of whom made sacrifices so we could be here now. Friends in all spaces who supported us in this journey, take a moment to thank those you can. We've had a rather eventful 4 years. From the banks of the Raritan, we've witnessed students contribute to scientific breakthroughs, take part in generational social movements, and yes, even seen lobsters put in trees. A common theme found throughout our collective time at Rutgers has been that of scarlet service. This past year especially, we were needed more than ever to step up and confront the challenges our world faces. With the world reeling from the pandemic, those students graduating today who have fought COVID-19 on the front lines deserve our thanks. Our same thanks goes to the student contact tracers and to those who participated in the vaccine trials. As a student body, we packaged over 150,000 COVID test kits. That's scarlet service. We were the first school in the nation to establish a COVID-19 relief fund that was student-led, acting before even Congress and the CARES Act. That's scarlet service. We were there for each other, offering words of consolation and encouragement, even when distant. That's scarlet service. When we were separate in location, we were close in spirit. We came together to achieve great things. Looking beyond the pandemic, this past year, we were resolute in our fight for racial justice, and we were historic as the first Big Ten institution to divest from fossil fuels and demonstrate our commitment to combating the climate crisis. We were scarlet servants to our communities, local, national, and global. Being that most of us were not on campus this past year, it was incumbent upon us all to deliver the values of Rutgers from our own parts of the world. While campus was not a home to us, Rutgers has always had a home in our hearts. Through acts of scarlet service, we have created a tradition that will outlive us and a legacy for those to come. And while our time as students together may be coming to an end, our life as Scarlet Knights is merely opening a new chapter. With the knowledge gained, struggles overcome, connections made, and friendships forged that hold potential to last throughout our lives, I am confident that our class will continue to defy expectations and make history as proud Scarlet Knights. We've done great things, so let us boldly endeavor to keep that spirit of scarlet service alive and expanding. Let us create our beloved community at home and beyond campus. Let us continue to be innovators and change makers. Let us all be scarlet servants. Congratulations again, class of 2021. I am honored to have been able to serve you, and I'm so excited for the amazing things ahead in our next chapter. Thank you.
And now please join the members of the Rutgers University Glee Club under the direction of Dr. Patrick Gardner in singing the Alma Mater, found on page 29 of the program.
From far and near we came to Rutgers and resolved to learn all that we can. And so we settled down in that noisy college town on the banks of the old Raritan. On the banks of the old Raritan, my friends, where old Rutgers evermore shall stand. For has she not stood since the time of the flood on the banks of the old Raritan? Then sing aloud to Alma Mater, and keep the scarlet in the van. For with her motto high, Rutgers' name shall never die on the banks of the old Raritan. On the banks of the old Raritan, my friends, where old Rutgers evermore shall stand. For has she not stood since the time of the flood on the banks of the old Raritan?
Introducing Christopher J. Malloy, Chancellor of Rutgers University, New Brunswick, for the presentation of the degree candidates and their deans.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Congratulations to the class of 2021. Candidates for advanced and baccalaureate degrees from our campuses will now be presented. I am pleased to introduce Dr. Brian L. Strom, Chancellor, Rutgers Biomedical and Health Sciences, and Executive Vice President for Health Affairs.
Thank you, Chancellor Malloy. I present the deans, their academic units, and the degree candidates for the schools of Rutgers Biomedical and Health Sciences. Dean Joseph A. Barone, Ernest Mario School of Pharmacy, and candidates. Dean Robert L. Johnson, New Jersey Medical School and Robert Wood Johnson Medical School, and candidates. Dean Cecile A. Feldman, Rutgers School of Dental Medicine, and candidates. Dean Linda Flynn, School of Nursing, and candidates. Dean Gwendolyn M. Mahan, School of Health Professions, and candidates. Dean Perry N. Halkitis, School of Public Health, and candidates. President Holloway, upon the recommendation of the appropriate faculties, it is my honor to present these 2,295 candidates for the certificate and degree programs offered at Rutgers Biomedical and Health Sciences.
Candidates for advanced and baccalaureate degrees from the academic units at Rutgers University, New Brunswick will now be presented. Dean Jerome J. Kukor, School of Graduate Studies, and candidates. Dean Thomas N. Farris, School of Engineering, and candidates. Interim Dean Laura Lawson, Executive Dean of the School of Environmental and Biological Sciences, and candidates. Dean Wanda J. Blanchett, Graduate School of Education, and candidates. Dean Lei Lei, Rutgers Business School, Newark and New Brunswick, and candidates. Dean Catherine C. Potter, School of Social Work, and candidates. Interim Dean Denise A. Hyen, Graduate School of Applied and Professional Psychology, and candidates. Dean Jason Geary, Mason Gross School of the Arts, and candidates. Dean Jonathan Potter, School of Communication and Information, and candidates. Dean Vanu Thakuria, Edward J. Blaustein School of Planning and Public Policy, and candidates. Dean Adrian E. Eaton, School of Management and Labor Relations, and candidates. Executive Dean Peter March, School of Arts and Sciences, and candidates. President Holloway, upon the recommendation of the appropriate faculties, it is my honor to present these members of the Rutgers University, New Brunswick graduate and undergraduate class of 2021, who represent 11,084 candidates for their degrees, for a total of 13,367 graduates.
Upon recommendation of the faculties of the named schools for the aforementioned degrees, and by virtue of the authority vested in me by the boards of governors and trustees of Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, I confer upon each of you and the candidates you represent the degrees indicated with all the rights, responsibilities, privileges, and immunities appertaining thereunto here and elsewhere. Undergraduates, it's time to move your tassel. Congratulations, you have all graduated and are now officially Rutgers alumni. As you venture out into the world, be safe, be well, and remember all that you have been given, and think about all that you will give. Thank you.
This is how I celebrate graduation. Woo!
Whew. Hope I got those in on time. My parents will kill me if I don't graduate.